lot to be arriving in Jim's boat, another lot not far behind.
Good evening, Fred.
Good evening, Mrs. Rogers.
Is that the boat?
Yes.
Oh dear, already? Have you remembered everything?
Narracot gives her the basket. I think so. Lemons, slip soles, cream, eggs, tomatoes, and butter. That was all, wasn't it?
That's right. So much to do, I don't know where to start. No maids till the morning and all these guests arriving today.
Calm down, Ethel. Everything's shipshape now. Looks nice, don't it, Fred?
Looks neat enough for me, kind of bare, but rich folks like bare places, it seems.
Rich folks is queer.
And he was a queer sort of gentleman, as built the place. Spent a wicked lot of money on it, he did, and then he gets tired of it and puts the whole thing up for sale.
Beats me why the Owens wanted to buy it, living on an island.
Oh, come off it, Ethel, and take all that stuff out into the kitchen. They'll be here any minute now.
Making that steep climb an excuse for a drink, I suppose, like others I know.
A motorboat horn heard off. That'll be young Jim. I'll be getting along. There's 2 gentlemen arriving by car, I understand.
I shall want at least 5 loaves in the morning and 8 pints of milk, remember.
Right. Mrs. Rogers puts basket on the floor, then exits to the hall.
Don't forget the oil for the engine, Fred. I ought to charge up tomorrow. I'll have the lights running down.
Narracot goes off towards the balcony. 'Twas held up on railway. It's at the station now. I'll bring it across first thing tomorrow.
And give a hand with the luggage, will you?
Right. Narracot exits. Mrs. Rogers with a list.
I forgot to give you the list of guests, Tom.
Thanks, old girl. Doesn't look like a very classy lot to me. Miss Claythorne. She'll probably be the secretary.
I don't hold much with secretaries. Worse than hospital nurses and them giving themselves airs and graces and looking down on the servants.
Now stop grousing, Ethel, and cut along to the lovely up-to-date expensive kitchen of yours.
Mrs. Rogers picks up the basket and makes for the dining room.
Too many newfangled gadgets for my fancy.
Vera and Lombard are heard outside. Rogers stands ready to receive them. He is now the well-trained differential manservant. Vera and Lombard enter to the balcony. She is a good-looking girl of 25. He is an attractive, lean man of 34. Well-tanned, with a touch of the adventurer about him. He is already a good deal taken with Vera. He gazes around the room.
So this is it?
How perfectly lovely.
Miss Claythorne.
You're Rogers?
Yes, good evening, miss.
Good evening, Rogers. Will you bring up my luggage and Captain Lombard's?
Very good, miss.
He exits into the balcony.
You've been here before?
No, but I've heard a lot about the place.
From Mr. and Mrs. Owen?
No, old Johnny Brewer, a pal of mine, built this house. It's a sad and poignant story.
A love story?
Yes, ma'am. The saddest of all. He was a wealthy old boy and fell in love with the famous Lily Logan. Married her, bought the island, and built this place for her.
Oh, sounds most romantic.
Poor Johnny. He thought by cutting her off from the rest of the world without even a telephone as a means of communication that he could hold her.
But of course the fair Lily tired of her ivory tower and escaped.
Uh-huh. Johnny went back to Wall Street, made a few more millions, and the place was sold.
And here we are. Well, I ought to find Mrs. Owen. The others will be up in a minute.
Vera makes to the hall door. Lombard stops her.
It would be very rude to leave me here all by myself.
Would it? Oh, well, I wonder where she is.
She'll come along when she's ready. While we're waiting, do you think I could have a drink? I'm very dry.
Lombard goes towards the drinking cabinet and starts preparing drinks.
Of course you could.
It's certainly warm after that steep climb. What's yours?
Oh, no thanks. Not for me. Not on duty.
A good secretary is never off duty.
Vera looks around the room.
Really? This is exciting.
What?
All this, the smell of the sea, the gulls, the beach in this lovely house. I'm going to enjoy myself.
Lombard makes to Vera, holding up a drink.
I think you are. I think we both are. Here's to you. You're very lovely.
Rogers enters from the balcony with 2 suitcases.
Where is Mrs. Owen?
Mr. and Mrs. Owen won't be down from London until tomorrow, miss. I thought you knew.
Tomorrow? But...
I've got a list here of the guests expected, miss. If you would like to have it. The second boatload's just arriving.
Vera takes the list. Rogers exits to the hall.
Thank you. How awful. I say you would be sweet and help me, won't you?
I won't move from your side.
Thank you.
Reads the list.
It seems silly to have brought only us in the first boat and all the rest in the second.
That, I'm afraid, was design, not accident.
Design? What do you mean?
I suggested to the boatman that there was no need to wait for any more passengers. That and 5 shillings soon started up the engine.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that.
Well, they're not a very exciting lot, are they?
I thought the young man was rather nice looking.
Callow? Definitely callow. And very, very strong.
I suppose you think a man in his 30s is more attractive.
I don't think, my darling. I know.
Marston enters from the balcony. He is a good-looking man of 3 or so, rich, spoiled, and not very intelligent.
Wizard place you've got here?
Marston greets Vera. They shake hands.
I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
Oh, too bad.
May I introduce Captain Lombard?
Marston! Anthony Marston.
Have a drink!
Well, thank you.
Blore comes up onto the balcony. He is a middle-aged, thick-set man wearing rather loud clothes, giving the impression of a gold magnate. His eyes dart about, making notes of everything.
What will you have? Gin, whiskey, sherry?
Whiskey, I think.
Lombard and Marston go to the drinking cabinet. Blore makes directly to Vera, seizes her hand, and wrings it heartily.
Wonderful place you have here.
I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
Say when?
A wizard.
Blore makes for the cocktail cabinet.
How are you?
My name's Lombard. Have a drink, Mr.
Davis. Davis is the name.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Marston.
How are you, Mr. Marston? Pleased to meet you. Thanks, Mr. Lombard. I don't mind if I do. Bit of a stiff climb up here, but whew, what a view and what a height. Reminds me of South Africa, this place.
Lombard stares at Blore.
Does it? What part?
Natal. Durban, you know.
Really?
Lombard hands him a drink.
Well, here's to temperance. Do you, know South Africa?
Me? Oh, no.
Well, that's where I come from. That's my natal state.
Interesting country, I should think.
The finest country in the world, sir. Gold, silver, diamonds, oranges. Everything a man could want. Talk about a land flowing with beer and skittles.
General Mackenzie arrives on the balcony. He is an upright, soldierly old man with a gentle, tired face.
How do you do?
General Mackenzie, isn't it? I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow. Can I introduce Captain Lombard, Mr. Marston, and Mr...
Blore approaches him and shakes hands.
Davis. Davis is the name.
Whiskey and soda, sir.
Thanks.
Mackenzie studies.
You in the service?
Formerly in the King's African Rifles. Too tame for me in peacetime. I chucked it.
Oh, pity, when?
Miss Emily Brent arrives. She is a tall, thin spinster with a disagreeable, suspicious face. She speaks sharply to Vera.
Where is Mrs. Owen?
Miss Brent, isn't it? I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
They
Indeed.
trail off,
Extraordinary.
embarrassed.
Did she miss the train?
I expect so. Won't you have something? May I introduce Captain Lombard, General Mackenzie, Mr. Marston, I think you all met on the boat, and Mr.
Davis. Davis is the name. May I take your case?
Do let me give you a drink. A dry martini, a glass of sherry, whiskey and soda.
I never touch alcohol.
You never touch alcohol?
I suppose you know, young man, that you left us standing there on the wharf.
I'm afraid, Mrs. Brent, I was to blame for that. I wanted
It seems to me very extraordinary that Mrs. Owen should not be here to receive her guests.
Perhaps she's the kind of person who just can't help missing trains.
That's what I reckon she is.
Not at all. Mrs. Owen isn't the least like that.
Perhaps it was her husband's fault.
She hasn't got a husband.
Vera stares. Rogers enters from the dining room.
I should like to go to my room.
Of course, I'll take you there.
You'll find Mrs. Rogers upstairs, miss. She will show you the room.
Vera, Emily, and Rogers exit to the hall. Wargrave enters from the balcony. Lombard comes to greet him.
I'm afraid our host and hostess haven't arrived, sir. My name is Lombard.
I'm Wargrave. How do you do?
How do you do? Have a drink, sir.
Yes, please. Whiskey?
How are you? Davis. Davis is the name. I say, a wonderful place you've got here. It's quite unique.
As you say, quite unique.
Lombard prepares Wargrave's drinks.
Good drink, sir.
Wargrave puts his coat on the sofa, takes his drink, and sits to watch the proceedings. Marston turns to Lombard.
Old Badger Berkeley rolled up yet?
Who did you say?
Badger Berkeley. He wrote me in for this show. When's he coming?
I don't think he is coming. Nobody of that name, of Berkeley?
Dirty old double-crosser. He let me down. Well, it's pretty Wizard Island. Rather a wizard girl that's secretary. Gotta liven things up a bit. I say, old man. What about dressing for dinner if there's time?
Let's go and explore.
How, wizard?
Things are a bit at 6s and 7s with the Owens not turning up.
Tricky, what? I say wizard place for a holiday. What?
Marston and Lombard exit to the hall. Blore wanders onto the balcony, looks back sharply into the room, and then presently exits. Wargrave continues to sit like a Buddha. He observes Mackenzie, who is standing looking rather lost, absent-mindedly pulling his mustache. Mackenzie is carrying a shooting stick. He looks at it wistfully, half opens and closes it.
Aren't you going to sit down?
Well, to tell you the truth, you seem to be in my chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were one of the family.
No, well, it's not that exactly. To tell you the truth, I've never been here before. You see, I live at the Benton Club, have for the last 10 years, and my seat is just about there. Can't get used to sitting anywhere else.
It becomes a bit of a habit.
Yes, it certainly does. Thank you. Well, it's not quite as good as the club's, but it's a nice chair. To tell you the truth, I was a bit surprised when I got this invitation. Haven't had anything of this kind for well over 4 years. Oh, very nice of them, I thought.
Rogers enters from the hall and picks up Wargrave's coat from the sofa.
Can I have your keys, sir?
Is Lady Constance Comington expected here? Can you tell me?
Wargrave gives him the key.
Lady Constance Comington? I don't think so, sir, unless she's coming down with Mr. and Mrs. Owen.
No.
Allow me, sir. Can I have your keys, sir?
No, thanks. I'll unpack for myself.
Dinner is at 8 o'clock, sir. Shall I show you to your room?
Oh, please.
Rogers holds open the hall door for Mackenzie. Wargrave follows, looking around the room in an unsatisfied fashion. They exit. The sound of seagulls can be heard. Dr. Armstrong arrives in the balcony, followed by Narracot, carrying his suitcase. Armstrong is a fussy, good-looking man of 34. He looks rather tired. Here you are, sir. I'll call Rogers. Narracot exits to the hall. Armstrong looks around and nods his approval. Narracot returns and Armstrong tips him. He exits to the balcony and Armstrong sits. Blore comes along the balcony, pausing at the sight of Armstrong.
How are you? Davis. Davis is the name.
Mine's Armstrong.
Dr. Armstrong, I believe.
Yes.
Thought so. Never forget a face.
Don't tell me I've forgotten one of my patients.
No, nothing like that. But I once saw you in court giving expert advice.
Now, really, are you interested in the law?
Well, you see, I'm from South Africa. Naturally, legal processes in this country are bound to interest a colonial.
Yes, of course.
Have a drink?
No, thanks, I never touch it.
Oh. Mind if I do? Mine's empty.
Not a bit.
I've been having a look around the island. It's a wonderful place, isn't it?
Wonderful. I thought as I was coming across the mainland what a haven of peace this was.
Blore moves to him, putting his face close to his.
Too peaceful for some, I dare say.
Wonderfully restful, wonderful for the nerves. I'm a nerve specialist, you know.
Yes, I know that. Did you come down by train?
No, I motored down. Dropped in on a patient on the way. Great improvement, wonderful response.
Best part of 200 miles, isn't it? How long did it take you?
I didn't hurry. I never hurry. Bad for the nerves. Some mannerless young fellow nearly drove me into the ditch near Amesbury. Shot past me at about 80 miles an hour. Disgraceful bit of driving. Like to have had his number.
Yes, and if only more people would take the numbers of these young road hogs.
Yes, you must excuse me. I must have a word with Mr. Owen.
Armstrong bustles out to the hall. Blore follows, calling after him.
But Mr. Owen isn't coming down.
Blore finishes his drink, then rings the bell rope by the hall door. Rogers enters almost immediately.
You rang, sir?
Yes. Take my hat, will you? What time's supper?
Dinner is at 8 o'clock, sir. In a quarter of an hour. I think tonight dressing will be optional.
Got a good place here.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Been here long?
Just under a week, sir.
Is that all? So I don't suppose you know much about this crowd that's here?
No, sir.
All old friends of the family?
I really couldn't say, sir.
Oh, well. Oh, Rogers.
Yes, sir?
Rogers, do you think you could put some sandwiches and a bottle of beer in my room at night? I get an hell of an appetite with this, sea air.
I'll see what I can do, sir.
Rogers? I'll see you won't lose by it. Where's my room?
I'll show you, sir.
Good. I can do with a wash and brush up straight away.
Blore exits to the hall with Rogers. Mrs. Rogers enters from the dining room. She picks up glasses and tidies. Rogers quickly enters from the dining room with a tray of 8 glasses.
Oh, there you are, Rogers. You ought to clear these dirty glasses. You're always leaving the dirty work to me.
Mrs. Rogers takes the glasses off the tray and Rogers puts on the dirty ones.
Here I am with a 4-course dinner on my hands and no one to help me. You might come and give me a hand with the dishing up. Who was it that you were talking to, by the way?
Davis. South African gentleman. No class, if you ask me. No money either.
I don't like him. Don't like any of them much. More like that bunch we had in the boarding house, I'd say.
Davis gives out he's a millionaire or something. You should see his underwear, cheap as they make 'em.
As I said, it's not treating us right. All these visitors arriving today, and the maid's not coming till tomorrow. What do they think we are?
Now then. Anyway, the money's good.
So it ought to be. Catch me going into service again unless the money was good.
Well, it is good. So what are you going to do about it? So what are you going on about?
Well, I can tell you this, Rogers. I'm not staying any place where I'm put upon. Cooking's my business. I'm a good cook.
First-rate old girl.
But the kitchen's my place, and housework's none of my business. All these guests. I've a good mind to put my hat and coat on and walk out now and go straight back to Plymouth.
You can't do that, old girl.
Who says I can't? Why not? I should like to know.
Because you're on an island, old girl. Had you forgotten that?
Yes, and I don't know I fancy being on an island.
I don't know that I do either, come to that. No slipping down to a pub or going to the pictures. Oh, well, it's double wages on account of the difficulties, and there's plenty of beer in the house.
That's all you ever think about. Beer.
Now, stop your nagging. You get back to the kitchen or your dinner'll be spoilt.
It'll be spoilt anyway, I expect. Everyone's going to be late. Wasted on them anyway. Thank goodness I didn't make a souffle.
Vera enters from the hall.
Oh, dinner won't be a minute, miss. Just a question of dishing up.
Mrs. Rogers exits the dining room.
Is everything all right, Rogers? Can you manage between the two of you?
Yes, thank you, miss. The missus talks a lot, but she gets it done.
Rogers exits to the dining room as Emily enters from the hall, having changed.
What a lovely evening.
Yes, indeed. The weather seems very settled.
How plainly one can hear the sea.
A pleasant sound.
Hardly a breath of wind, and deliciously warm. Not like England at all.
I should have thought you might feel a little uncomfortable in that dress.
Vera doesn't take the point.
Oh, no.
It's rather tight, isn't it?
Oh, I don't think so.
Emily sits and takes out her knitting.
You'll excuse me, my dear, but you're a young girl and you've got your living to earn.
Yes.
A well-bred woman doesn't like her secretary to appear flashy. It looks, you know, as though you were trying to attract the attention of the opposite sex.
And would you say I do attract them?
That's beside the point. A girl who deliberately sets out to get the attention of men won't be likely to keep her job very long.
Oh, surely that depends on who she's working for.
Really, Miss Claythorne?
Aren't you being a little unkind?
Young people nowadays behave in the most disgusting fashion.
Disgusting?
Yes. Low-backed evening dresses, lying half-naked on beaches, all this so-called sunbathing. An excuse for immodest conduct, nothing more. Familiarity, Christian names, drinking cocktails. And look at the young men nowadays. Decadent. Look at that young Marston. What good is he? And that Captain Lombard.
What do you object to in Captain Lombard? I should say he was a man who'd led a very varied and interesting life.
That man's an adventurer. All this younger generation is no good at all.
You don't like youth, I see.
What do you mean?
I was just remarking that you don't like young people.
Is there any reason why I should, pray?
Oh, no. But it seems to me that you must miss an awful lot.
You're very impertinent.
I'm sorry, but that's just what I think.
The world will never improve until we stamp out immodesty.
Quite pathological.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Armstrong and Lombard enter from the hall.
What about the old boy?
Looks rather like a tortoise, don't you think so?
All judges look like tortoises. They have that venomous way of darting their heads in and out. Mr. Justice Wargrave is no exception.
I hadn't realized he was a judge.
Oh, yes. He's probably been responsible for sending more innocent people to their death than anyone in England.
Wargrave enters and looks at him. Lombard turns to Vera.
Hello? You? Do you two know each other? Mr. Armstrong? Miss Claiborne? Armstrong and I have just decided that the old boy...
Yes, I heard you, and so did he, I think.
Wargrave moves over to Emily, who rises as he...
Oh, Sir Lawrence.
It's Brent, isn't it?
There's something I want to ask you. Will you come out here?
She indicates he wants to talk on the balcony. Wargrave nods his assent.
Remarkably fine night.
Marston enters from the hall with Blore. They are in conversation.
Oh, he's muted. He's muted.
Unmute.
That's so Marston. Absolute wizard car. Supercharged sports by Letty Carlotta. You don't see many of them on the road. I can get over 100 out of her.
Did you come from London?
Yes. That's why I mouth my words before I say them out loud. 208 miles, and I did it in a bit of over 4 hours. Too many cars on the road, though, to keep it up. Touched 90 going over Salisbury Plain. Not too bad, eh?
I think you passed me on the road.
Oh, yeah?
You nearly drove me
Did
into
I?
a ditch.
Sorry.
If I'd seen your number, I'd have
I'd
reported
be
you.
footling along in the middle of the road.
Footling! Footling!
Blore attempts to the
Drink.
They make to the drink.
Good idea. You have one, Miss Claythorne?
No, thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Owen.
Why, Mrs. Owen?
You'd make the most attractive wife for any wealthy businessman.
Do you always flirt so outrageously?
Always.
Well, now we know.
Tell me, what's old Miss Brent talking to the judge about? She tried to buttonhole him upstairs.
I don't know. Funny, she seemed so definite that there wasn't a Mr. Owen.
You don't think that Mrs. Owen, that there isn't, that they aren't...
Oh, what? Married, you mean?
Rogers enters from the dining room. He switches on the lights, draws the curtain, and exits to the study. Marston moves to Vera.
Damn shame we don't know each other. Could have given you a lift down.
Yes, that would have been grand.
Like to show you what I can do across Salisbury Plain. Tell you what, maybe we can drive back together.
Wargrave and Emily enter from the balcony. Mackenzie enters from the hall and sits.
But
But it seems damn silly. I've got an empty car.
Yes, but she likes the way she's going back, and...
Vera rises awkwardly and makes it to the fireplace. Marston and Lombard scowl at each other.
no, can't they sweet? There's 10 little tiny soldiers. And there's the old nursery rhyme.
What are you talking about? What figures? What nursery rhyme?
Vera points at the figures in the rhyme.
10 little soldier boys going out to dine. One chose to sit herself, and then there were 9.
Rogers enters from the study. Vera continues reading.
9 little soldier boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8.
8 little soldier boys traveling in Devon. One got left behind, and then there were 7.
Ladies and gentlemen, silence, please. You are charged with these indictments, that you did respectively and at diverse times commit the following. Edward Armstrong, that you did cause the death of Louisa May Cleese. William Henry Blore, that you brought about the death of James Stephen Landor. Emily Caroline Brent, that you are responsible for the death of Beatrice Taylor. Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, that you killed Peter Ogilvy Hamilton. Phillip Lombard, that you are guilty of the deaths of 21 men, members of an East African tribe. John Gordon Mackenzie, that you sent your wife's lover, Arthur Richmond, to his death. Anthony James Marston, that you are guilty of the murder of John and Lacey Combs. Thomas Rogers and Ethel Rogers, that you brought about the death of Jennifer Brady. Lawrence John Wargrave, that you are guilty of the murder of Edward Seaton. Prisoners at the bar, do you have anything to say in your defense? There is a momentary paralyzed silence. Then a scream is heard outside the dining room door. Ah! Lombard springs across the room. Indignant murmurs breaks out as people recover from the initial shock. The dining room door opens to show Mrs. Rogers in a fallen heap. Marston springs across to Lombard. They pick up Mrs. Rogers and carry her in. Armstrong looks her over.
Nothing much. She's fainted, that's all. She'll be round in a minute. Get some brandy.
Rogers, get some brandy.
Rogers, shaking all over, exits to the dining room.
Who is that speaking? It sounded...
What's going on here? What kind of practical joke was that?
Blore wipes his face with a handkerchief. Wargrave stands thoughtfully stroking his chin, eyes peering suspiciously from the other.
Where the devil did that voice come from?
They all stare around. Lombard exits into the study.
Here we are.
You are charged with these indictments.
Turn it off! Turn it off! This is horrible!
Lombard.
A disgraceful and heartless practical joke.
So you think it's a joke, do you?
What else could it be?
At the moment, I'm not prepared to give an opinion.
Rogers enters from the dining room with brandy and glass on a tray. He puts it down and then goes to Mrs. Rogers.
Who the devil turned it on, though? Instead of going.
We must inquire into that.
Wargrave looks significantly at Rogers. Lombard enters from the study with a gramophone record in his hands. Mrs. Rogers begins to move and twist.
Oh, dear me, dear me.
The others
allow me, sir, if I speak to her, Ethel. Ethel, it's all right. All right. Do you hear? Pull yourself together.
You'll be all right now, Mrs. Rogers. Just a nasty turn.
Did I faint, sir?
Yes.
It was the voice. The awful voice. Like a judgment.
Where's the brandy? Drink this, Mrs. Rogers.
I'm all right now. I just gave me a turn.
Of course it did. Gave me a turn, too. Wicked lies it was. I'd like to know who...
Who was it that put that record on the gramophone? Was it you, Rogers?
I was just obeying orders, sir, that's all.
Whose orders?
Mr. Owen's.
Let me get this quite clear. Mr. Owen's orders were what exactly?
I was to put a record on the gramophone in the study. I'd find the records in the drawer there. I was to start with that one, sir. I thought it was just to give you all some music.
A very remarkable story.
It's the truth, sir. For heaven, it's the truth. I didn't know what it was, not for a moment. It had a name on it. I thought it was just a piece of music.
Lombard, is there a title?
A title? Yes, sir. It's entitled Swan Song.
The whole thing is preposterous. Preposterous. Slinging accusations about like this. Something must be done about it. This fellow Owen, whoever he is...
That's just it. Who is he?
That is exactly what we must go into very carefully. I should suggest that you get your wife to bed, Rogers. Then come back here.
Yes, sir.
I'll give you a hand.
Will she be all right, Doctor?
Yes, quite all right.
Armstrong and Rogers help Mrs. Rogers up and take her out to the hall. Marston turns to Wargrave.
Don't know about you, sir, but I feel I need another drink.
I agree.
I'll get them.
Preposterous. It's preposterous.
Whiskey for you, Sir Lawrence.
I should like a glass of water, please.
Yes, I'll get it. I'll have a little whiskey too.
Vera takes a glass of water to Emily. They sip their drinks, eyeing each other warily. Armstrong enters from the hall.
She'll be all right. I've given her a sedative.
Now then, Doctor, you'll want a drink after all of this.
No, thank you. I never touch it.
Oh, so you said...
Blore takes a
have
drink
this
to
one,
Mackenzie.
General?
Marston and Lombard refill their glasses. Rogers enters from the hall. Everyone focuses attention on him. Wargrave takes charge.
Now then, Rogers, we must get to the bottom of this. Tell us what you know about Mr. Owen.
He owns this place, sir.
I am aware of that fact. What I want you to tell me is, what you yourself know about the man?
I can't say, sir. You see, I've never seen him.
Oh, what do you mean you've never seen him?
We've only been here just under a week, sir, my wife and I. We were engaged by letter through a registry office, the Regina in Plymouth.
That's a high-class firm. We can check on that.
Have you got the letter?
The letter engaging us? Yes, sir.
Rogers hunts for it. After a moment, he hands it to Wargrave, who looks over it.
Go on with your story.
We arrived here, like the letter said, on the 4th. Everything was in order, plenty of food in stock, and everything was very nice. Just needed dusting and that.
What next?
Nothing, sir. That is, we got orders to prepare the rooms for house party, 8. Then yesterday, by the morning post, I received another letter saying Mr. and Mrs. Owen might be detained, and if so, we was to do the best we could and give the instructions about dinner and putting on the gramophone record. Here it is, sir.
Headed Ritz Hotel. And typewritten.
Coronation machine, number 5, quite new. No defects. Ensign paper, most common make. We shan't get much out of this. We might try it for fingerprints, but it's been handled too much.
Quite the little detective.
Wargrave turns and looks at him sharply. Blore's manner has completely changed. So has his voice. Marston takes the letter.
Got some fancy Christian names, hasn't he? Look, Norman Owen. Quite a mouthful.
Wargrave takes the letter from Marston and looks around the room in his court manner.
I'm obliged to you, Mr. Marston. You have drawn my attention to a curious and suggestive point. I think the time has come for all of us to pool our information. It would be well for everyone to come forward with all the information they have regarding our unknown host. We are all his guests. I think it would be profitable if each one of us were to explain exactly how they came about.
There's something very peculiar about all this. I received a letter with a signature that was not very easy to read. It purported to be from a woman whom I had met at a certain summer resort 2 or 3 years ago. I took the name to be Ogden. I'm quite certain that I have never met or become friendly with anyone of the name Ogden. Owen.
Have you got that letter, Miss Brent?
Yes, I will fetch it for you.
Emily exits to the hall.
Miss Claythorne.
I never actually met Mrs. Owen. I wanted a holiday post, and I applied to a secretarial agency. This Grenfell's in London. I was offered this post and accepted.
And you were never interviewed by your prospective employer?
No, this is the letter.
Soldier Island, Sticklehaven, Devon. I have received your name from Miss Grenfield's agency, I understand. She knows you personally. I shall be glad to pay you the salary you ask and shall expect you to take up your duties on August 8th. The train is the 12:10 from Paddington, and you will be met at Oak Bridge Station. I've enclosed £5 for expenses. Yours truly, Una Nancy Owen.
Marston makes to the balcony.
Mr. Marston.
Don't actually know the Owens. Got a wire from a pal of mine, Badger Berkeley. Told me to row up here. Surprised me a bit, because I had an idea the old horse had gone Norway. Haven't got the wire.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong?
In the circumstances, I think I may admit that my visit here was professional. Mr. Owen wrote me that he was worried about his wife's health, her nerves to be precise. He wanted a report without her being alarmed. He therefore suggested that my visit should be regarded as that of an ordinary guest.
You have no previous acquaintance with the family?
No.
But you had no hesitation in obeying the summons?
A colleague of mine was mentioned and a very handsome fee was suggested. I was due for a holiday anyway.
Emily re-enters and hands a letter to Wargrave, who reads.
Dear Miss Brent, I do hope you remember me. We were together at Belhaven Guest House in August some years ago, and we seem to have so much in common. I'm starting a guest house of my own on an island on the coast of Devon. I think there is really an opening for a place where there is good, plain English cooking and a nice old-fashioned type of person. None of this nudity and gramophones half the night. I should be very glad if you could see your way to spending your summer holiday on Soldier Island. As my guest, of course, I suggest August 8th, 1240 from Paddington to Oakbridge. Yours sincerely, you and... Yes, this signature is slightly ambiguous.
I like the nudity touch.
Here is my own decoy letter from an old friend of mine, Lady
Hey,
Constance...
What about me?
Okay. She writes in her usual vague, incoherent way, urges me to join her, and refers to her host and hostesses in the vaguest of terms.
Armstrong, Marston, and Mackenzie look at the letter. Lombard stares at Blore.
Look here. I just thought of something.
In a minute.
But
We will take one thing at a time, if you don't mind, Captain Lombard. General Mackenzie.
I got a letter from this fellow, Owen. I thought I must have met him sometime at the club. Mentioned some old cronies of mine were to be here. Hoped I'd excuse informal invitation. I haven't kept the letter, I'm afraid.
And you, Captain Lombard?
Same sort of thing. Invitation, mentioning mutual friends. I haven't kept the letter either.
There is a pause. Wargrave turns his attention to Blore. He looks at him for some time. When he speaks, his voice is silky and dangerous.
Just now we had a somewhat disturbing experience. An apparently disembodied voice spoke to us all by name, uttering certain definite accusations against us. We will deal with these accusations presently. At the moment, I am interested in a minor point. Amongst the names received was that of William Henry Blore, but as far as we know, there is no one named Blore among us. The name of Davies was not mentioned. What have you to say about that, Mr. Davis?
Cat's out of the bag, it seems. I suppose I'd better admit my name isn't Davis.
You are William Henry Blore?
That's right.
I will add something to that. Not only are you here under a false name, Mr. Blore, but in addition, I've noticed this evening that you're a first-class liar. You claim to have come from Natal, South Africa. I know South Africa well, and I'm prepared to swear that you've never set foot there in your life.
You gentlemen have got me wrong. I'm an ex-CID man.
Oh, a copper.
I've got my credentials, and I can prove it. I run a detective agency in Plymouth. I was put onto this job.
By whom?
By Mr. Owen. Sent a very nice money order for expenses and said I was to join the house party posing as a guest. He also sent a list of all your names and said I was to keep an eye on you all.
Any reason given?
Said Mrs. Owens has got some valuable jewels. Mrs.
Your
Owens. I don't believe there's any such person.
Your conclusions are, I think, justified. Ulick Norman Owen. Una Nancy Owen. Each time, that is to say, U.N. Owen. Or by a slight stretch of fancy, unknown.
But it's fantastic! Mad!
Oh, yes. I've no doubt in my mind that we have been invited here by a madman. Probably a dangerous homicidal lunatic.
Oh, my God.
Whoever it is who has enticed us here, that person has taken the trouble to find out a great deal about us. A very great deal. And out of his knowledge concerning us, he has made certain definite accusations.
Yeah,
A pack of
A
damn
lie.
lies.
A wicked lie. We never did, neither of us.
Hold up. I wish to say this. Our unknown friend accuses me of the murder of one Edward Seaton. I remember Seaton perfectly well. He came up before me for trial in June of 1930. He was charged with the murder of an elderly woman. He was very ably defended and made a good impression on the jury and the witness box. Nevertheless, on the evidence, he was certainly guilty. I summed up accordingly, and the jury brought in a verdict of guilty. In passing sentence of death, I fully concurred with the verdict. The appeal was lodged on the grounds of misdirection. The appeal was dismissed, and the man was duly executed. I wish to say before you all that my conscience is perfectly cleared on this matter. I did my duty and nothing more. I passed sentence on a rightly convicted murderer.
Did you know Seaton at all? I mean, personally.
I knew nothing of Seaton previous to the trial.
The old boy's lying. I'll swear he's lying.
Fellow's a madman. Absolute madman. Got a bee in his bonnet. Got hold of the wrong end of the stick all around. Best really to leave this sort of thing unanswered. However, feel I ought to say no truth whatever in what he was said about young Arthur Richmond. Richmond was one of my officers. I sent him on a reconnaissance in 1917. He was killed. Also like to say, resent very much slur on my wife. And then a long time, best woman in the world. Absolutely. Caesar's wife.
I've been thinking. John and Lucy Combs. Must have been a couple of kids I ran over near Cambridge. Beastly bad luck.
For them or for you?
Well, I was thinking for me, but of course you're right, sir. It was damn bad luck for them, too. Of course, it was pure accident. They rushed out of some cottage or other. I had my license suspended for a year. Beastly nuisance.
This speeding's all wrong, all wrong. Young men like you are a danger to the community.
Well, I couldn't help it. Just an accident.
Might I say a word, sir?
Go ahead, Rogers.
There was mention of me and Mrs. Rogers and of Miss Jennifer Brady. There isn't a word of truth in it. We were with Miss Brady when she died. She was always in poor health, sir. Always from the time we came to her. There was a storm, sir, that night she died. The telephone was out of order. We couldn't get the doctor to her. I went for him, sir, on foot, but he got there too late. We'd done everything possible for her, sir. Devoted to her we were. Anyone will tell you the same. There was never a word said against us. Never a word.
Came into a nice little something at her death, I suppose, didn't you?
Miss Brady left us a legacy in recognition of our faithful service. And why not, I'd like to know?
What about yourself, Mr. Blore?
What about me?
Your name was on the list.
I know. Landor, you mean? That was the London and Commercial bank robbery.
I remember the name, though it didn't come before me. Landor was convicted on your evidence. You were the police officer in charge of the case.
I was, m'lady.
Landor got penal servitude for life and died in Dartmoor a year later. He was a delicate man.
He was a crook. It was him, put the night watchman out. The case was clear from the start.
You were complimented, I think, on your able handling of the case?
Yeah, I got my promotion. I was only doing my duty.
Convenient word. Duty. What about you, Doctor?
I'm at a loss to understand the matter. The name meant nothing to me. What was it? Close? Close? I really don't remember having a patient of that name, or it's being connected with a death in any way. The thing's a complete mystery to me. Of course, it's a long time ago. Might possibly be one of my operation cases in hospital. They come too late, so many of these people. Then when the patient dies, it's always the surgeon's fault.
And then it's better to take up nerve cases and give up surgery. Some, of course, give up drink.
I protest! You've no right to insinuate such things. I never touch alcohol.
My dear fellow, I never suggested you did. Anyway, Mr. Unknown is the only one who knows all the facts.
Miss Claythorne?
I was nursery governess to Peter Hamilton. We were in Cornwall for the summer. He was forbidden to swim that far. One day, when my attention was distracted, he started off at... As soon as I saw what was happened, I swam after him. I couldn't get there in time.
Was there an inquest?
Yes, I was exonerated by the coroner. His mother didn't blame me either.
Thank you. Miss Brent?
I have nothing to say.
Nothing?
Nothing.
You reserve your defense.
There is no question of defense. I've always acted according to the dictates of my conscience.
What a law-abiding lot we seem to be. Myself accepted.
We are waiting for your story, Captain Lombard.
I haven't got a story.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry to disappoint all of you. It's just that I plead guilty. It's perfectly true. I left those natives alone in the bush. Matter of self-preservation.
You abandoned your men?
Not quite. The act of a proper gentleman, I'm afraid. But after all, self-preservation's a man's first duty. And natives don't mind dying, you know. They don't feel about it as Europeans do. And
our inquiry rests there. Now, Rogers, who else is there on this island besides ourselves and you and your wife?
Nobody, sir. Nobody at all.
You're sure of that?
Quite sure, sir.
Oh, thank you. Don't go, Rogers. I'm not yet clear as to the purpose of our unknown host in getting us to assemble here, but in my opinion, he's not sane in the accepted sense of the word. He may be dangerous. In my opinion, it would be well for us to leave this place as soon as possible. I suggest that we leave here tonight.
I beg your pardon, sir, but there's no boat on the island.
No boat at all?
No, sir.
Why don't you telephone to the mainland?
There's no telephone. Fred Narracot, he comes over every morning, sir. He brings the milk and the bread and the post and the papers and takes the orders.
A bit unsporting, what? Ought to ferret out the mystery before we go. Whole thing's like a detective story. Positively thrilling.
At my time of life, I have no desire for thrills.
The legal life's narrowing. I'm off for crime. Here's to it.
He drinks it off with a gulp and then suddenly chokes and gasps. He convulses violently and falls. The glass drops from his hand. Armstrong runs over to him and feels his pulse.
My God, he's dead.
Dead? Do you mean the fellow just choked and died?
You can call it choking if you like. He died of asphyxiation, right enough.
Never knew a man could die like that, just of a choking fit.
In the middle of life, we are in death.
Man doesn't die of a mere choking fit, General Mackenzie. Marston's death isn't what we call a natural death.
Was there something in the whiskey?
Yes, by the smell of it, cyanide. Probably potassium cyanide. Acts pretty well instantaneously.
then he must have put the stuff in the glass himself.
Suicide, eh? That's a rum go.
You'd never think he'd commit suicide. He was still alive. He was enjoying himself.
Oh, look. Here's one of those little soldiers off the mantelpiece, broken.
Act 2.
Want to pause for 5 minutes?
Act 2. The following morning. The windows are open and the room has been tidied. It is a fine morning. There are only 8 soldiers on the mantelpiece. Suitcases are piled up on the balcony and all are waiting for the boat to arrive. Mackenzie is sitting in his chair, looking definitely a little queer. Emily is knitting with her hat and coat on. Wargrave stands a little apart, thoughtful. His manner is judicial throughout the scene. Vera stands restlessly by the window. She comes into the room as if to speak, but no one takes any notice. She sits. Armstrong and Blore come up to the balcony.
We've been up to the top. No sign of that boat yet.
It's very early still.
Oh, I know. Still the fellow brings the milk and the bread and all that. I should have thought he'd have got here before this. No sign of breakfast yet. Where's that fellow Rogers?
Oh, let's not bother about breakfast.
How's the weather looking?
Well, the wind has freshened a bit. Rather a mackerel sky. Old boy in the train yesterday said we were due for dirty weather. Shouldn't wonder if he wasn't right.
Wish that boat would come. The sooner we get off this island, the better. It's absurd not keeping a boat on the island.
No proper harbor. If the wind comes to blow from the southeast, the boat would get dashed to pieces against the rocks.
But a boat would always be able to make us from the mainland.
No, Miss Brent. That's just what it wouldn't.
Do you mean we should be cut off from the land?
Yes. Condensed milk, rye Vera, tin stuff till the gale has blown itself out, but you needn't worry, the sea's only a little bit choppy.
I think the pleasures of living on an island are rather overrated.
I wonder if that boat's coming. Annoying the way the house is built slap up against the cliff. You can't see the mainland until you've climbed to the top. Shall we go up there again?
It's no good, Doctor. A watched pot never boils. There wasn't a sign of a boat putting out there when we were up there just now.
What can this man Narracot be doing?
They're all like that in Devon. Never hurry themselves.
And where's Rogers? He ought to be about.
If you ask me, Master Rogers was pretty badly rattled last night.
I know. Ghastly, the whole thing.
Got the wind up properly. I'd even bet that he and his wife did do that old lady in.
You really think so?
Well, I never saw a man more scared. Guilty as hell, I should say.
Fantastic. The whole thing. Fantastic.
Suppose he's hopped it.
Who, Rogers? But there isn't any way he could. There's no boat on the island. You've just said so.
Yeah, but I've been thinking. We've only Rogers' word for that. Suppose there is one, and he's nipped off in it the first thing.
Oh, no. He wouldn't be allowed to leave the island.
Sleep well, General?
I dreamed, yes, I dreamed.
I don't wonder that.
I dreamed of Leslie, my wife, you know.
Yes, I wish Narracot would come.
Who is Narracot?
The bloke who brought us over yesterday afternoon.
Was it only yesterday?
Yes. Yes, I feel like that too. Batty gramophone records, suicides, it's about all a man can stand. I shan't be sorry to see the back of Soldier Island, I give you my word.
So you don't understand. How strange.
What's that, General?
I don't like the look of him.
I reckon young Marston's suicide must have been a pretty bad shock to him. He looks years older.
Where is that poor young fellow now?
In the study. Put him there myself.
Dr. Armstrong, I suppose it was suicide?
Oh.
I don't know, suicide.
You know, I had a pretty funny feeling in the night. This Mr. Unknown Owen, suppose he's on the island. Rogers mayn't know. Or he may have told him to say so. Pretty nasty thought, isn't it?
But would it have been possible for anyone to tamper with Marston's drink without our seeing him?
Well, it was standing up there. Anyone could have slipped a dollop of cyanide in it if they wanted to.
But that...
Oh, there you are, sir. I've been all over the place looking for you. Could you come up and have a look at my wife, sir?
Yes, of course. Is she feeling under the weather still?
She's...
Rogers swallows convulsively, then exits to the hall. Armstrong turns back to the others.
You won't leave the island without me.
He exits.
I wish the boat would come. I hate this place.
Yes. I think the sooner we can get in touch with the police, the better.
The police?
The police have to be notified in a case of suicide, you know. Miss Claythorne?
Oh, yes, of course.
Vera looks toward the door of the study and shivers. Blore opens the door to the dining room.
What's going on here? No sign of any breakfast.
Are you hungry, General? Feeling like breakfast?
Leslie, my dear.
No, I'm not. I'm Vera Claythorne.
Oh, of course. Forgive me. I took you for my wife.
Oh.
I was waiting for her, you see.
But I thought your wife was dead long ago.
Yes. I thought so too, but I was wrong. She's here, on this island.
There is a pause. Lombard enters from the hall.
Good morning.
Good morning, Captain Lombard.
Good morning. Seem to have overslept myself. Boat here yet?
No.
Bit late, isn't it?
Yes.
Good morning. You and I could have had a swim before breakfast. Too bad all this.
Too bad you overslept yourself.
You must have good nerves to sleep like that.
Nothing makes me lose my sleep.
Didn't dream of African natives by any chance, did you?
No. Did you dream of convicts on Dartmoor?
Look here. I don't think that's funny, Captain Lombard.
Well, you started it, you know. I'm hungry. What about breakfast?
The whole domestic staff seems to have gone on strike.
Oh, well, we can always
Vera
forage
is
for
examining the
ourselves.
soldier figures.
Hello, that's strange.
What is?
You remember we found one of these little fellows smashed last night?
Yes, that ought to leave 9.
That ought to leave 9. I'm certain there were 10 of them here when we arrived.
Well?
There were only 8.
Lombard goes to the mantelpiece.
So there are.
I think it's queer, don't you?
Probably only 9 to begin with. We assumed that there were 10 because of the rhyme.
Armstrong enters from the hall. He is upset, but striving to appear calm. He shuts the door and leans heavily against it.
Hello, Armstrong. What's the matter?
Rogers is dead.
No! How?
Died in her sleep. Rogers thought she was still under the influence of the sleeping draught I gave her and came down without disturbing her. He lit the kitchen fire and did this room. Then as she hadn't appeared, he went up, was alarmed by the look of her, and went hunting for me. She's been dead about 5 hours, I should say.
What was it? Heart?
Impossible to say. It may have been.
After all, she had a pretty bad shock last night.
Yes.
Might have been poisoned, I suppose. Doctor?
It is perfectly possible.
With the same stuff as young Marston?
No, not cyanide. It would have to have been some narcotic or hypnotic, one of the barbiturates or chloral, something like that.
You gave her some sleeping powders last night, didn't you?
Yes, I gave her a mild dose of luminol.
Didn't give her too much, did you?
Certainly not. What do you mean?
All right, no offense. I just thought that perhaps if she'd had a weak heart...
The amount I gave her could not have hurt anyone.
And what exactly did happen?
Impossible to say without an autopsy.
If, for instance, this death has occurred in the case of one of your private patients, what would have been your procedure?
Without any previous knowledge of the woman's state of health, I could certainly not give a certificate.
She was a very nervous-looking creature. She'd have had fright last night. Perhaps it was heart failure.
Her heart certainly failed to beat, but what caused it to fail? Conscience, what exactly do you mean by that, Miss Brent? Oh, Miss Brent, you devil. Have you anything to say, Miss Brent? Answer me, you bitch!
I have nothing to say. Wait, did I miss one? Are we already at page 54?
Yes.
We are!
Sorry, my daughter was calling me. She's not, Miss Brent is not really a spinster. Okay, conscience. Conscience.
What exactly do you mean by that, Miss Brent?
You all heard. She was accused, together with her husband, of having deliberately murdered her former employer, an old lady.
And you believe that's true, Miss Brent?
Certainly. You all saw her last night. She broke down completely and fainted. The shock of having her wickedness brought home to her was too much for her. She literally died of fear.
It is a possible theory. One cannot adopt it without more exact knowledge of her state of health. If there was a latent cardiac weakness...
Call it, if you prefer, an act of God.
Oh no, Miss Brent?
You regard it as impossible that a sinner should be struck down by the wrath of God. I do not.
My dear lady, in my experience of ill-doing, Providence leaves the work of conviction and chastisement to us mortals. and the process is often fraught with difficulties. There are no shortcuts.
Let's be practical. What did the woman have to eat and drink last night after she went to bed?
Nothing.
Nothing at all? Not a cup of tea or a glass of water? I'll bet she had a cup of tea. That sort always does.
Rogers assures me she had nothing whatsoever.
He might say so.
So that's your idea?
Well, why not? You heard that accusation last night. What if it's true? Miss Brent thinks it is, for one. Rogers and his missus did the old lady in. They're feeling quite safe and happy about it. Who says happy? No, absolutely not. Well, they know there's no immediate danger to them. Come on. They know there's no immediate danger. Then last night, some lunatic goes and spills the beans. What happens? That's the woman that cracks. Goes to pieces. Did you see him hanging round her when she was coming to? Not all husbandly solicitude. Not on your sweet life. He was like a cat on hot bricks. And that's the position. They've done a murder and got away with it. But if it's all going to be raked up again now, it's the woman who will give the show away. She hadn't got the nerve to brazen it out. She's a living danger to her husband. That's what she is. And him, he's all right. He'll go on lying till the cows come home. But he can't be sure of her. So what does he do? He drops a nice little dollop of something into a nice little cup of tea. And when she's had it, he washes up the cup and saucer and tells the doctor she didn't have anything.
Oh no, that's impossible. A man wouldn't do that, not to his wife.
You'd be surprised, Miss Claythorne, what some husbands would do.
Rogers enters from the dining room. He is dead white and speaks to Vera like an automaton.
Excuse me, miss. I'm getting on with breakfast. Not much of a hand as a cook, I'm afraid. It's lunch that's worrying me. Would cold tongue and gelatin be satisfactory? And I could manage some fried potatoes. And there's tinned fruit and cheese and biscuits.
That would be fine, Rogers.
Lunch? Lunch? We shan't be here for lunch. And when the hell's that boat coming?
Mr. Blore.
What?
Oh, pardon me, sir. But the boat won't be coming.
What?
Fred Narracot's always here before 8. Is there anything else you require, miss?
No, thank you, Rogers.
Rogers exits to the dining room.
And it's not Rogers. His wife lying dead upstairs, and there he's cooking breakfast and calmly talking about lunch. Now he says the boat won't be coming. How the hell does he know?
Mr. Blore.
What?
Oh, don't you see? He's dazed. He's just carrying on automatically as a good servant would. It's pathetic, really.
He's pulling a fast one, if you ask me.
The really significant thing is the failure of the boat to arrive. It means that we are being deliberately cut off from help.
There's very little time. Very little time.
Is that, General?
Very little time. We mustn't waste it talking about things that don't matter.
Mackenzie rises and turns to the window. They all look at him dubiously before resuming.
Why do you think Narracot hasn't turned up?
I think the ubiquitous Mr. Owen has given orders.
You mean told him it's a practical joke or something of that kind?
He'd never fall for that, would he?
Why not? Soldier Island's got a reputation for people having crazy parties. This is just one more crazy idea, that's all. Narracot knows there's plenty of food and drink on the island. Probably thinks it's all a huge joke.
Couldn't we light a bonfire up on the top of the island so that they'd see it?
That's probably been provided against. All signals are to be ignored. We're cut off, all right.
But can't we do something?
Oh, yes, we can do something. We can find the funny gentleman who staged this little joke, Mr. Unknown Owen. I'll bet anything you like. He's somewhere on the island, and sooner we get hold of him, the better, because, in my opinion, he's mad as a hatter and as dangerous as a rattlesnake.
Hardly a very good simile, Captain Lombard. The rattlesnake at least gives warning to its approach.
Warning? My God, yes! That's our warning. 10 little soldier boys. There were 10 of us after Narracot went, weren't there? 10 little soldier boys gone out to dine. One went and choked himself. Marston choked himself, didn't he? And then 9 little soldier boys sat up very late. One overslept himself. That last part fits Mrs. Rogers rather well, doesn't it?
You don't think... Do you mean that he wants to kill us all?
Yes, I think he does.
And each one fits with the rhyme?
No, it's impossible. It's coincidence. It must be coincidence.
Only 8 little soldier boys were here. I suppose that's coincidence, too. What do you think, Blore?
No, I don't like it.
But there's nobody on the island.
I'm not so sure of that.
This is terrible.
None of us will ever leave this island.
Oh, can't somebody shut up, Grandpa?
Don't you agree with me, Sir Lawrence?
Up to a point, yes.
Then the sooner we get to work, the better. Come on, Armstrong. Come on, Blore. We'll make short work of it.
I'm ready. Nobody's got a revolver by any chance. I suppose that's too much to hope for.
I've got one.
Lombard takes the revolver from his pocket. Blore's eyes open rather wide. An idea occurs to him, and not a pleasant one.
Always carry that about with you?
Usually. I've been in some tight places, you know.
Ah, well, you've probably never been in a tighter place than you are today. If there's a homicidal maniac hiding on this island, he's probably got a whole arsenal on him, and he'll use it.
You'd be wrong there, Blore. Many homicidal maniacs are very quiet, unassuming people.
Delightful fellows.
You'd never guess there was anything wrong with them.
Mr. Owen turns out to be one of that kind. We'll leave him to you, Doctor. Now then, let's make a start. I suggest Captain Lombard searches the house while we do the island.
Right. The house ought to be easy. No sliding panels or secret doors.
Mind he doesn't get you before you get him.
Don't worry, but you two had better stick together. Remember, one got left behind.
Come on, Mr. Armstrong.
Lombard exits to the study. Blore and Armstrong exit to the balcony.
A very energetic young man, Captain Lombard.
Don't you think he's right? If someone is hiding on this island, they'll be bound to find him. It's practically bare rock.
I think this problem needs brains to solve it, rather than brawn.
Where are you going?
I'm going to sit in the sun and think, my dear young lady.
Where did I put that skein of wool?
Did you leave it upstairs? Should I go and see if I can find it?
No, I'll go. I know where it's likely to be.
Emily exits to the hall.
I'm glad Captain Lombard has got a revolver.
They're all wasting time.
Do you think so?
Yes. It's much better to sit quietly and wait.
Wait for what?
For the end, of course.
He rises and then opens and shuts the hall and the dining room doors.
I wish I could find Leslie.
Your wife?
Yes. I wish you'd known her. She was so pretty, so gay.
Was she?
I loved her very much. Of course, I was a lot older than she was. She was only 27, you know. Arthur Richmond was 26. He was my ADC. Leslie liked him. They used to talk of music and plays together, and she teased him and made fun of him. I was pleased. I thought she took a motherly interest in the boy. Damn fool, wasn't I? No fool like an old fool. Exactly like a book, the way I found out. When I was out in France, she wrote to both of us, and she put the letters in the wrong envelope. So I knew...
Oh, no.
Oh, it's all right, my dear. It's a long time ago. But you see, I loved her very much and believed in her. I didn't say anything to him, I let it gather inside here. A slow, murderous rage. Damn young hypocrite! I liked the boy, trusted him.
I wonder what the others are doing.
I sent him to his death.
Oh!
It was quite easy. Mistakes were being made all the time. All anyone could say was that I'd lost my nerve a bit, made a blunder, sacrificed one of my best men. Yes, it was quite easy. Leslie never knew, never told her I'd found out. We went on as usual, but somehow nothing was quite real anymore. She died of pneumonia. She had a heart-shaped face and gray eyes and brown hair that curled.
Oh, don't.
Oh, yes. I suppose in a way it was murder. Curious murder. And I've always been such a law-abiding man. It didn't feel like that at the time. Serves him damn well right. That's what I thought. But after, well, you know, don't you?
What do you mean?
You don't seem to understand. I thought you would. I thought you'd be glad too that the end was coming. We're all going to die.
I don't know.
You're very young. You haven't got to that yet. The relief, the blessed relief when you know that you're done with it all, that you haven't got to carry the burden any longer. Don't talk to me that way. You don't understand. I want to sit here and wait for Leslie to come for me.
He goes out onto the balcony, draws up a chair and sits. The back of his head is visible through the window. His position does not change throughout the scene. Vera stares after him. Her composure breaks.
Oh, I'm frightened. I'm frightened.
Lombard enters from the study.
All correct. No secret passage, one corpse.
Don't!
I say, you do look low. How about a drink to steady your nerves?
A drink? 2 corpses in the house at 9 o'clock in the morning and all you say, have a drink? An old man going quite crackers, have a drink, then 10 people accused of murder. That's all right, just have a drink. Everyone's fine so long as you have a drink.
All right. All right. Stay thirsty.
Oh, you're nothing but a waster and adventuring. You make me tired.
I say, you are head up. What's the matter, my sweet?
I'm not your sweet.
I'm sorry. I rather thought you were.
Well, you can think again.
Come on now. You know you don't really feel like that. We've got something in common, you and I. Rogues and murderers can't fall us.
Rogues and murderers?
Okay. You don't like the company of rogues and murderers, and you won't have a drink. I'll go and finish searching.
As Lombard exits to the hall, Emily enters, almost colliding with him.
Unpleasant young man. I can't find it anywhere. Is anything the matter?
Worried about the general. He really is ill, I think.
Emily looks to Mackenzie, then goes out onto the balcony and stands behind him. She speaks in a loud, cheerful voice, as though talking to an idiot child.
Looking out for the boat, General!
Mackenzie does not answer. Emily waits a minute, then slowly comes in.
His sin has found him out.
Oh, don't!
One must face facts.
Can any of us afford to throw stones?
Even if his wife was no better than she should be, and she must have been a depraved woman, he had no right to take judgment into his own hands.
What about Beatrice Taylor?
Who?
That was the name, wasn't it?
You are referring to that absurd accusation about myself?
Yes.
Now that we are alone, I have no objection to telling you the facts of the case. Indeed, I should like you to hear them. It was not a fit subject to discuss before gentlemen, so naturally I refused to say anything last night. That girl, Beatrice Taylor, was in my service. I was very much deceived in her. She had nice manners and was clean and willing. I was very pleased with her. Of course, all that was sheerest hypocrisy. She was a loose girl with no morals. Disgusting. It was some time before I found out that she was what they call in trouble. It was a great shock to me. Her parents were decent folks, too, who had brought her up strictly. I'm glad to say they didn't condone her behaviour.
What happened?
Naturally, I refused to keep her an hour under my roof. No one shall ever say I condoned immorality.
Did she drown herself?
Yes.
How old was she?
17.
Only 17?
Quite old enough to know how to behave. I told her what a low, depraved thing she was. I told her that she was beyond the pale and that no decent person would take her into their house. I told her that her child would be the child of sin and be branded all its life, and that the man would naturally not dream of marrying her. I told her that I felt soiled by ever having her under my roof.
You told a girl of 17 all that?
Yes. I'm glad to say I broke her down utterly.
Poor little devil.
I've no patience with this indulgence towards sin.
And then I suppose you turned her out of the house?
Of course.
And she didn't dare go home. What did you feel like when you found she drowned herself?
Feel like?
Yes. Didn't you blame yourself?
Certainly not. I had nothing with which to reproach myself.
I believe you really feel that. That makes it even more horrible.
Vera goes out onto the balcony. Emily opens her bag and takes out a small Bible. She begins to read it in a low mutter.
That girl's unbalanced. The heathen are sunk down in the pit that they are made. And the net which they hid is their own foot taken.
Rogers enters from the dining room. Emily stops and smiles approvingly.
The Lord is known by the judgment he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hand.
Breakfast is ready.
Be quiet. The wicked shall be turned into hell.
Do you know where the gentlemen are, miss? Breakfast is ready.
Vera enters from the balcony.
Sir Lawrence Wargrave is sitting out there in the sun. Dr. Armstrong and Mr. Blore are searching the island. I shouldn't bother about them.
Rogers goes out onto the balcony.
Shall not the isles shake at the sound of the fall, when the wounded cry, when the slaughter is made in the midst of thee?
Shall we go in?
I don't feel like eating.
Breakfast is ready.
He exits off the balcony. Emily is still reading from the Bible.
Then all the princes of the sea shall come down from their thrones and lay away their robes and put off their broidered garments.
Blore enters from the balcony.
They shall clothe themselves with trembling. They shall sit upon the ground and shall tremble at every moment and be astonished at thee.
Emily looks up and sees Blore, but her eyes are almost unseeing. Blore watches her with a new interest.
Reading aloud, Miss Brent?
It is my custom to read a portion of the Bible every day.
Very good habit, I'm sure.
Armstrong enters from the balcony.
There's no cover in the island, no caves, no one could hide anywhere.
Lombard enters from the dining room.
That's right. What about the house, Lombard?
No one. I'll stake my life there's no one in the house but ourselves. I've been over it from attic to cellar.
Rogers enters from the balcony. Wargrave comes along the balcony slowly and in. Emily is still reading.
Breakfast is getting cold.
Breakfast? Come on, Blore. You've been yelping for breakfast ever since you got up. Let's eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Or who knows, perhaps even today.
You ought to be ashamed of such levity, Captain Lombard.
Come on, General. Can't have this. Breakfast. I say, sir.
He goes out into the balcony, stops, stoops, and comes back slowly in.
Good God! One God left behind? There's a knife in Mackenzie's back!
He's dead. He's dead.
But he can't be. Who could have done it? There's only us on the island.
Exactly, my dear sir. Don't you realize that this clever and cunning criminal is always comfortably one stage ahead of us? That he knows exactly what we are going to do next and makes his plans accordingly? There's only one place, you know, where a successful murderer could hide and have a reasonable chance of getting away with it.
One place? Where?
He's here, in this room. Mr. Owen is one of us. Dun dun dun!
Shall we continue?
Yep.
Power through. Scene 2. There is a storm. The room is much darker. The windows are closed and the rain is heard beating down on it. Wargrave enters the dining room, followed by Blore.
Sir Lords?
Well, Mr. Blore?
I wanted to get you alone. You were right in what you said this morning. This damn murderer is one of us, and I think I know which one.
Really?
Ever hear of the Lizzie Borden case in America? Old couple killed with an axe in the middle of the morning. The person who could have done it was the daughter, a respectable, middle-aged spinster. Incredible. So incredible that they acquitted her. But they never found any other explanation.
Then your answer to the problem is Miss Emily Brent.
I tell you, that woman is mad as a hatter. Religious mad. I tell you, she's the one. And we must watch her.
Really? I had formed the impression that your suspicions were in a different quarter.
Yes, but I've changed my mind. And I'll tell you why. She's not scared, and she's the only one who isn't. Why? Because she knows quite well she's in no danger. Shh, hush.
Vera and Emily enter from the dining room. Vera is carrying a coffee tray and places it down. Emily sits.
We've made some coffee. It's cold in here.
I hardly believe it when you think what a beautiful day it was this morning.
Are Captain Lombard and Rogers still out?
Yes. No boat will put out in this, and it couldn't land anyway.
Miss Brent.
Allow me.
You were right to insist on our going to lunch and drinking some brandy with it. I feel better.
The court always adjourns for lunch.
All the same, it's a nightmare. It seems as though it can't be true, but what are we going to do about it?
We must hold an informal court of inquiry. We may at least be able to eliminate some innocent people.
You haven't got a hunch of any kind, have you, Miss Claythorne?
If Miss Claythorne suspects one of us three, that is rather an awkward question.
I'm sure it isn't any of you. If you ask me who I suspect, I say Dr. Armstrong.
Armstrong?
Yes, because don't you see, he's had far and away the best chance to kill Mrs. Rogers. Terribly easy for him as a doctor to give her an overdose of sleeping stuff.
That's true, but someone else gave her brandy. Remember?
Her husband had a good opportunity of administering a drug.
It isn't Rogers. He wouldn't have the brains to fix all this stunt, nor the money. Besides, you can see he's scared stiff.
Rogers and Lombard in Mackintoshes appear at the window. Blore lets them in. As he opens the window, there is a swirl of wind and rain. Emily half screams and turns around.
My God, it's something like a storm.
It's only you.
Who did you think it was? Beatrice Taylor?
Huh?
Not a hope of rescue until this dies down. Is that coffee? Good. I'm taking a coffee now, you see.
Such restraint in the face of danger is nothing short of heroic.
I do not, of course, profess to be a weather prophet, but I should say that it is very unlikely that a boat could reach us, even if it knew of our plight in under 24 hours. Even if the wind drops, the sea has still to go down.
Lombard
You're awfully
sits.
wet.
Is anyone a swimmer? Would it be possible to swim to the mainland?
It's over a mile, and in this sea you'd be dashed on the rocks and drowned.
Drowned in the pond.
I beg your pardon, Miss Brent.
After dinner nap?
Terribly cold in here.
I could light the fire if you like, miss.
That would be a good idea.
Very sound scheme, Rogers.
Rogers goes toward the dining room door, but stops.
Excuse me, but does anybody know what's become of the top bathroom curtain?
Really? Rogers, are you going bats too?
The bathroom curtain?
Yes, sir. Scarlet oilskin. It's missing.
Anybody seen a scarlet oilskin curtain? No good, I'm afraid, Rogers.
It doesn't matter, sir. Only I just thought it was odd.
Everything on this island is odd.
I'll get some sticks and a few knobs of coal and get a nice fire going.
Rogers exits to the dining room.
I wonder if he would like some hot coffee. He's very wet.
What's become of Armstrong?
He went to his room to rest.
Somebody's probably batted him one by now.
I expect he had the good sense to bolt his door.
Won't be so easy now that we're all on our guard.
I advise you, Mr. Blore, not to be too confident. I should like shortly to propose certain measures of safety, which I think we should all adopt.
Against whom?
Against each other. We are all in grave danger. Of the 10 people who came to this island, 3 are definitely cleared. There are 7 of us left. 7 little soldier boys.
One of whom is a bogus little soldier boy.
Exactly.
Well, in spite of what Miss Claythorne said just now, I'd say that you, Sir Lawrence, and Dr. Armstrong are above suspicion. He's a well-known doctor, and you're known all over England.
Mr. Blore, that proves nothing at all. Judges have gone mad before now. So have doctors. So have policemen.
Vera enters from the dining room.
Here, here. Well, does he want some coffee? Kara.
Yes, I lost my space. Wait. No.
Page 72. Halfway down.
Shoot. Yeah, he'd rather make himself a nice cup of tea. What about Dr. Armstrong? Do you think we ought to take him a cup?
I will take it up if you like.
I'll take it. I want to change.
Yes, you ought to. You'll catch a cold.
I think Dr. Armstrong might prefer to see me. He might not admit you, Captain Lombard. He might be afraid of your revolver.
The revolver. I want a word with you about that.
You go and change.
Wargrave takes a cup from her and exits to the dining room. Lombard turns to Blore.
What were you going to say?
I'd like to know why you brought a revolver down here on what's supposed to be a little social visit.
You do you? I've led a rather adventurous life. I've got into the habit of taking a revolver about with me. I've been in a bit of a jam once or twice. It's a pleasant feeling to have a gun handy. Don't you agree?
Armstrong enters from the...
Well, we don't carry them. Now then, I want truth about this gun.
What a damn suspicious fellow you are, Blore.
I know a fishy story when I hear one.
If it's about that revolver, I'd like to hear what you've got to say.
Oh. Well, I got a letter asking me to come here as the guest of Mr. and Mrs. Owen. It would be worth my while. The writer said that he had heard I had gotten a reputation for being a good man in a tight place. There might be some danger, but I'd be all right if I kept my eyes open.
I'd have never fallen for that.
Well, I did. I was bored. God, how I was bored back in this tame country. It's an intriguing proposition, you must admit.
Yeah, too vague for my liking.
That was the whole charm. It aroused my curiosity.
Yeah. Curiosity killed the cat.
Yes, quite.
Oh, do go and change, please.
I'm going, my sweet. I'm going. The maternal instinct, I think it's called.
Don't be ridiculous.
Vera collects Emily's cup. Lombard exits to the hall.
That's a tall story. If it's true, why didn't he tell it to us all last night?
Might have thought that this was exactly the emergency for which he had been prepared.
Perhaps it is.
I hardly think so. It was just Mr. Owen's little bit of cheese to get him into the trap with the rest of us. Must have known him well enough to rely on his curiosity.
If it's true, he's a wrong'un, that man. I wouldn't trust him a yard.
Are you such a good judge of truth?
Wargrave enters from the hall. Armstrong has a sudden outburst and starts shaking violently.
Must get out of here. We must before it is too late.
The one thing we must not do is give away to nerves.
I'm sorry. Rather a case of physician heal thyself. But I've been overworked lately and run down.
Sleeping badly?
Yes. I keep dreaming. Hospital. Operations. A knife at my throat.
Real nightmares.
Yes. Do you ever dream you're in court sentencing a man to death?
Are you by any chance referring to a man called Edward Seaton? I can assure you I should not lose any sleep over the death of Edward Seaton, a particularly brutal and cold-blooded murderer. The jury liked him. They were inclined to let him off. I could see, however, I cooked Seaton's goose.
Cold in here, isn't it? Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if Rogers would hurry up, but where the fuck is he? He'd been a long time.
You're muted.
She's muted. Kara, you're muted, honey.
And forgive my profanity.
You're muted, Beb.
I'm on mute. I wish Rogers would hurry up.
Yes, where is Rogers? It's been a long time.
He said he'd got to get some sticks.
Sticks? Sticks? My God, sticks?
My God.
Is another one gone? Are there only 6?
There are only 5.
5?
Rogers and Lombard.
Oh no, not Phillip.
Lombard enters from the hall, meeting Blore as he rushes out, calling Rogers. Vera runs to him.
Where the hell is Blore? Off to like a madman.
Oh, Phillip,
Have you seen Rogers?
Oh, why should I?
2 more soldiers have gone.
2?
I thought it was you.
Blore enters from the hall. He is only just able to speak.
Well, what is it?
In the scullery.
Is he...
Oh, yes. He's dead, all right.
How?
An axe. Somebody must have come up behind him whilst he was bent over the wood box.
One chopped himself in half. Then there were 6.
Stop it! Vera! Stop it! She'll be all right. What's next, boys? Bees? Do they keep bees on the island? Well, That's the next verse, isn't it? 6 little soldier boys playing with a hive. A bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5. A bumblebee stung one. We all look pretty spry. Nothing wrong with any of us. My God. Do you think? A hypodermic syringe.
Modern bee sting.
Well, she was sitting there. One of us.
One of us.
Which of us?
Lava.
Act 3. Some hours later, the curtains are drawn and the room is lit by 3 candles. Wargrave, Vera, Blore, and Lombard and Armstrong are sitting in silence. From time to time, they shoot quick, covert glances at each other. Wargrave watches each in turn, but most often Vera, with a long, speculative glance. There is silence for some time. Then suddenly Lombard speaks in a loud, jeering voice that makes them all jump.
5 little soldier boys sitting in a row, watching each other and waiting for the blow. New version up to date.
I hardly think this is a moment for facetiousness.
Have to relieve the gloom. Damn that electric plant running down there. Let's play a nice round game. What about inventing one called Suspicions? A, suspects. B, suspects C. And so on. Let's start with Blore. It's not hard to guess whom Blore suspects. It sticks out a mile. I'm your fancy, aren't I, Blore?
I wouldn't say no to that.
You're quite wrong, you know. Abstract justice isn't my line. If I've committed murder, there would have been something in it for me.
All I say is that you've acted suspiciously from the start. You've told 2 different stories. You came here with a revolver. Now you say you've lost it.
I have lost it.
That's a likely story.
What do you think I've done with it? I suggested myself that you should search me.
Oh, you haven't got it on you. You're too clever for that, but you know where it is.
You mean I've cached it, ready for the next time?
I shouldn't be surprised.
Why don't you use your brains, Blore? If I'd wanted to, I could have shot the lot of you by this time. Pop, pop, pop!
Yes, but that's not the big idea.
The crazy touch? My God, man, I'm sane enough.
The doctor says there are some lunatics you'd never know were lunatics. That's true enough, I'd say.
We shouldn't just sit here doing nothing. There must be something. Surely there's something that we can do if we lit a bonfire.
In this weather?
It is, I am afraid, a question of time and patience. The weather will clear, then we can do something. Light a bonfire, heliograph, signal.
A question of time. Time! We can't afford time. We shall all be dead.
I think the precautions we have now adopted will be adequate.
I tell you, we shall all be dead. All but one. He'll think up something else. He's thinking now.
Poor Louise. What was her name? Cleese. Was it nerves that made you do her in, Doctor?
No, drink. I used to be a heavy drinker. God help me, I was drunk when I operated. Quite a simple operation, my hand shaking all over the place. Can remember her now. Big, heavy, countrified woman. And I killed her.
So I was right. That's how it was.
Sister knew, of course, but she was loyal to me or to the hospital. I gave up drink, gave it up altogether. I went in for a study of nervous diseases.
Very successfully.
1 or 2 lucky shots. Good results with 1 or 2 important women. They'd talk to their friends. For the last year or 2, I've been so busy I've hardly known which way to turn. I've got to the top of the tree.
Until Mr. Unknown Owen. And down will come cradle, doctor and all.
Will you stop your damnable sneering and joking?
Gentlemen, please. We can't afford to quarrel.
That's okay by me. I apologize.
It's this terrible inactivity that gets on my nerves.
We are adopting, I feel convinced, the only measure possible. So long as we remain together, all within sight of each other, a repetition of the tragedies that have occurred must be impossible. We have all submitted to a search. Therefore, we know that no man is armed either with a firearm or knife, nor has any man got cyanide or any drug about his person. If we remain, as I say, within sight of each other, nothing can happen.
But we can't go on like this. We shall need food, sleep.
That's what I say.
Obviously, the murderer's only chance is to get one of us detached from the rest. So, as long as we prevent that, we are safe.
Safe.
You're very silent, Vera.
There isn't anything to say. I wonder what the time is. It's this awful waiting. Waiting for the hours to go by and yet feeling that they may be the last. What is the time?
It's 8:30.
Is that all?
Pretty awful light this is. How are the candles holding out?
There's a whole packet. Storm's dying down a bit. What do you think, sir?
Perhaps we mustn't be too optimistic.
Murderer's got everything on his side. Even the weather seems to be falling in with his plans.
What about something to eat?
If you like, I'll go out and open some tongue and make some coffee. But you four stay here. That's right, isn't it?
Not quite. You see, Miss Claythorne, it might be inadvisable to eat or drink something that you had prepared out of sight.
Oh. You don't like me, do you?
It's not a question of likes or dislikes.
There are very few tricks that will get past you, Sir Lawrence. You know, if you won't be offended at my saying so, you're my fancy.
This is hardly the moment, Captain Lombard, for any of us to indulge in the luxury of taking offense.
I don't think it's Blore. I may be wrong, but I can't feel you've got enough imagination for this job. All I can say is that if you are the criminal, I take my hat off to you for a damn fine actor.
Thank you for nothing.
I don't think it's the doctor. I don't believe he's got the nerve. You've got plenty of nerve, Vera. On the other hand, you strike me as eminently sane. Therefore, you'd only do murder if you had a thoroughly good motive.
Thank you.
I've thought of something.
Splendid. Animal, vegetable, or mineral?
That man says he's a police officer, but we've no proof of that. He only said so after the gramophone record when his name had been given. Before that, he was pretending to be a South African millionaire. Perhaps the police officer is another impersonation. What do we know about him? Nothing at all.
He's a policeman, all right. Look at his feet.
That's enough from you, Mr. Lombard.
Well, now we know where we are. By the way, Miss Claythorne suspects you, Doctor. Oh, yes, she does. Haven't you seen her shoot a dirty look from time to time? It all works out quite prettily. I expect Sir Lawrence. Blore suspects me. Armstrong suspects Blore. What about you, sir?
Quite early in the day, I formed a certain conclusion. It seemed to me that everything that had occurred pointed quite unmistakably to one person. I am still of the same opinion.
Which one?
Well, no. I think it would be inadvisable to mention that person's name at the present time.
Inadvisable in the public interest?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, what about the food idea?
No, let's stay here. We're safe here.
Can't say I'm hungry.
I'm not ravenous myself. You can go out and have a guzzle by yourself, Blore.
Tell you what, suppose I go and bring in a tin of biscuits.
Blore starts to head towards the dining room door.
Good idea.
Blur.
Blore.
Eh?
Yeah?
Oh.
An unopened tin, Blore.
Blore exits, taking a candle from the bookcase. A pause. Everybody watches the door. A gust of wind. The windows rattle. Wargrave sits.
It's only the wind, making the curtains rattle.
I wonder what happened to the bathroom curtain. That one that Rogers missed.
By the wildest stretch of imagination, I cannot see why any homicidal maniac wants with a scarlet oilskin oil silk curtain.
Things seem to have been disappearing. Miss Brent lost a skein of her own knitting wool.
So the murderer, whoever he or she is a kleptomaniac too.
How does it go? 5 little soldier boys.
Going in for law. One got in chancery.
In chancery? But how could that apply? Unless, of course.
Precisely, my dear young lady. That's why I'm sitting right here.
Ah, but I'm casting you for the role of murderer, not victim.
The term can apply to a boxer.
Maybe we'll start a free fight. That seems to let you out, my dear.
That awful rhyme. It keeps going round and round in my head. I think I'll remember it till I die. Mr. Blore's a long time.
I expect the big bad wolf has gotten him.
I have asked you once before to try and restrain your rather peculiar sense of humor, Captain Lombard.
Sorry, sir. It must be a form of nervousness.
Blore enters from the dining room with a tin of biscuits. Wargrave takes the tin and opens it.
Put your hands up. Search him.
Armstrong and Lombard search Blore. Wargrave offers the biscuits to Vera.
No, thank you.
Come now. You've had no dinner.
I couldn't eat anything.
I warn you, Blore will wolf the lot.
I don't see why you need to be so funny about it. Starving ourselves won't do us any good. How are we off for cigarettes?
Lombard takes out his case and opens it.
I haven't got any.
I've run out too.
Fortunately, I'm a pipe smoker.
Vera rouses herself and makes to the hall door.
I've got a whole box upstairs in my suitcase. I'll get them. I could do with a cigarette myself. See? You'll say, stay where you are.
She exits, carrying a candle from the bookcase. Wargrave goes to the door and looks after her. Blore picks up the tin of biscuits and starts eating solidly.
They're not bad, these biscuits.
What are they, cheese?
Cheese and celery.
That girl ought to have had some.
Nerves are in a bad state.
Don't know that I'd agree with you there, Doctor. Miss Claythorne strikes me as a very cool and resourceful young lady. Quite remarkably so.
So, that's your idea, is it? She's the guilty party.
Hardly likely. A woman.
You and I, Doctor, see women from slightly different angles.
What does anyone say to a spot of whiskey?
Good idea, providing we tackle an unopened bottle.
An appalling and blood-curdling shriek of utter terror comes from overhead, followed by a heavy thud. Huh? No one?
Oh.
Boom.
Oh.
Lombard and Blore snatch up the candles and all 4 men rush to the hall door. They exit in this order. Lombard, Blore, Armstrong. Owing to his age, Wargrave is slow getting underway. He is plunged into darkness as Lombard and Blore exit with the candles. Confused noises are heard off. Wargrave's voice calls out.
Sorry, who's that?
There's the sound of a shot. Approaching voices are heard off. Vera enters breathlessly from the dining room. Lombard from the hall. Blore can be heard swearing off.
Phillip, where are you? I've lost you.
Here I am.
Why can't we have some light? It's awful in the dark. You don't know where you are. You don't know where anyone is.
It's that damn drought on the stairs, blowing all the candles out. Here, I've got a lighter.
Lombard lights his candle.
Where's Dr. Armstrong?
Armstrong's voice is heard from the hall.
I'm hunting for the matches.
Never mind matches. Get some more candles.
I was horrified to death. It went right around my throat.
What did?
The window was open in my room. It blew out the candles. I opened the door. Then a long strand of seaweed touched my throat. I thought in the dark that I was being strangled by a wet hand.
I don't wonder you yelled.
Who hung the seaweed there?
I don't know, but when I find out, he'll be sorry he was ever born.
Armstrong comes in quietly from the hall.
Who's that?
All right, Miss Claythorne. It's only me.
A faint glow is seen through the hall door. Blore lights a candle before entering.
Here we are. Who fired that shot?
Vera turns and screams. Light reveals Wargrave sat upright, the red oil silk curtain draped around his shoulders and a gray skein of wool plaited into a wig on his head. In the center of his forehead is a round dark mark with blood trickling from it. They stand paralyzed. Armstrong pulls himself together and examines Wargrave.
Dead. Shot through the head.
One got in Chancery and then there were 4.
Miss Claythorne.
Vera.
You've got to be out of the way. You got me to go upstairs for cigarettes. You put that seaweed there. You did it all so that you could kill that helpless old man in the dark. You're mad. All of you crazy. That's why you wanted the red curtain and the knitting wool. It was all planned long ago for that. Oh my God, let me get out of here.
She edges to the hall door and rushes out. Scene 2. The following morning, brilliant sunshine is streaming through the window. The room as it was the night before. Blore, Lombard, and Vera are sat eating tinned tongue on a tray.
3 little soldier boys sitting in a row, thinking as they guzzle who's next to go.
Oh, Phillip.
That's all right, Miss Claythorne. I don't mind joking on a full stomach.
I must say I was hungry. But all the same, I don't think I shall ever fancy tinned tongue again.
I was wanting that meal. I feel a new man.
We've been nearly 24 hours without food. That does lower the morale.
Somehow in the daylight, everything seems different.
You mustn't forget there's a dangerous homicidal lunatic somewhere loose on this island.
Why is it one doesn't feel jittery about it anymore?
Because we know now, beyond any possible of doubt, who it is, right, Blore?
That's right.
It was the uncertainty before, looking at each other, wondering which.
I said all along it was Dr. Armstrong.
You did, my sweet. You did. Till, of course, you went completely bats and suspected all of us.
Vera takes 3 cigarettes out of a box.
It seems rather silly in the light of day.
Very silly.
Allowing it is Armstrong. What's happened to him?
We know what he wants us to think has happened to him.
Vera gives Blore and Lombard a cigarette.
What exactly did you find?
1 shoe. Just 1 shoe. Sitting prettily on the cliff edge. Inference. Dr. Armstrong has gone completely off his onion and committed suicide.
All very circumstantial. Even the one little china soldier broken over there in the doorway.
I think that was rather overdoing it. A man wouldn't think of doing that if it was going to drown himself.
Quite so, but we're fairly sure he didn't drown himself. But he had to make it appear as though he were the 7th victim, all according to plan.
Suppose he really is dead.
I'm a bit suspicious of death without bodies.
How extraordinary to think that there are 5 dead bodies in there, and we've been eating tinned tongue.
The delightful feminine disregard for the facts. There are 6 dead bodies, and they are not all in there.
Oh, no, she's right. There are only 5.
What about Mrs. Rogers?
She makes the 5th.
Now look here. Marston 1, Mrs. Rogers 2, General Mackenzie 3, Rogers 4, Emily Brent 5, and Wargrave 6.
7, 8, 9. Armstrong 10. That's right, old man. Sorry.
Don't you think it would be an idea if we brought Mrs. Rogers downstairs and shoved her in the morgue, too?
I'm a detective, not an undertaker.
For heaven's sake, stop talking about bodies. The point is Armstrong murdered them.
We ought to have realized it was Armstrong straight away.
How do you think Armstrong got hold of your revolver?
Haven't the slightest idea.
Tell me exactly what happened in the night.
Well, after you threw a fit of hysterics and locked yourself in your room, we all thought we'd better go to bed. So we all went to bed and locked ourselves in our rooms.
About an hour later, I heard someone pass my door. I came out and tapped on Blore's door. He was there all right. Then I went to Armstrong's door. It was empty. That's when I tapped on your door and told you to sit tight. Whatever happened? Then I came down here. The window on the balcony was open and my revolver was lying just beside it.
But why the devil should Armstrong chuck that revolver anyway?
Don't ask me. Either an accident or he's crazy.
Where do you think he is?
Lurking somewhere, waiting to have a crack at one of us.
We ought to search the house.
What, and walk into an ambush?
Oh, I never thought of that.
Are you quite sure you heard no one moving about after we went out?
Oh, I imagine all sorts of things, but nothing short of setting the house on fire would have got me to unlock the door.
I see. Just thoroughly suspicious.
What's the use of talking? What are we going to do?
If you ask me, do nothing. Sit tight and take no risks.
Look, here, I want to go after that fellow.
What a dog of the bulldog breed are you, Blore? By the way, between friends and without prejudice, you did go in for a little spot of perjury, didn't you?
Well, I don't suppose it makes any odds now. Lender was innocent, all right. The gang squared me, and between us, we put him away for a stretch. Mind you, I wouldn't admit it now if it wasn't that.
You think we're all in the same boat?
Well, I couldn't admit it in front of Mr. Justice Wargrave, could I?
No, hardly.
I say, that fellow Seton, do you think he was innocent?
I'm quite sure of it. Wargrave had a reason for wanting him out of the way. Well, Blore, I'm delighted you come off your virtuous perch. I hope you made a tidy bit out of it.
Nothing like what I ought to have done. They're a mean lot, that Benny gang. I got my promotion, though.
And Landor got penal servitude and died in gaol.
I couldn't tell he was going to die, could I?
No, that was your bad luck.
His, you mean?
Yours, too. Because as a result of that fact, you may get your life cut short unpleasantly soon.
What? Me? By Armstrong? I'll watch that.
You'll have to. Remember, there are only 3 soldier boys there.
Well, what about you?
I shall be quite all right, thank you. I've been in tight places before, and I've gotten out of them. And I mean to get out of this one. Besides, I've got a revolver.
Yes. Yes, that revolver. Now listen, you said you found it lying down there? What's to prove you haven't had it all the time?
Same old gramophone record. No room in your head for more than one idea at a time, is there?
No, but it's a good idea.
And you're sticking to it?
And I would have thought I have a better story than that if I were you.
I only wanted something simple that a policeman could understand.
And what's wrong with the police?
Nothing. Now that you've left the force.
Now look here, Captain Lombard. If you're an honest man, as you pretend to be...
Oh, come on, Blore. We're neither of us honest.
If you're telling the truth for once, you ought to do the square thing and chuck that revolver down there.
Don't be an ass.
I've said I'll go through the house looking for Armstrong, haven't I? If I'm willing to do that, will you lend me that revolver?
No, I won't. That revolver's mine. It's my revolver, and I'm sticking to it.
Then do you know what I'm beginning to think?
You're not beginning to think it. Your square-headed flat tie. You thought it last night, and now you've gone back to your original idea. I'm the one and only UN, Unknown Owen. Is that it?
Well, I won't contradict you.
Well, think what you damn well please, but I warn you.
I think you are both behaving like a pair of children.
Sorry, teacher.
Of course, Captain Lombard isn't the unknown. The unknown Owen is Armstrong, and I'll tell you one very good proof of it.
Oh? What?
Think of the rhyme. 4 little soldier boys going out to sea. A red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. Don't you see the subtlety of it? A red herring, that's Armstrong's pretended suicide, but it's only a red herring, so really he isn't dead.
That's very ingenious.
To my mind, it's absolute proof. You see, it's all mad because he's mad. He takes a queer, childish, crazy pleasure in singing to the rhyme and making everything happen in that way. Dressing up the judge, killing Rogers when he was chopping sticks, using a hypodermic needle on Miss Brent when he might just as well have drugged her. He's got to make it all fit in.
And that might give us a pointer. Where do we go from here? 3 little soldier boys walking in the zoo. A big bear hugged one, and then there were 2. He'll have a job with that one. There's no zoo on this island. I say, Captain Lombard, what about a nice bottle of beer?
Do stop thinking about your stomach, Blore. This craving for food and drink will be your undoing.
But there's plenty of beer in the kitchen.
Yes, and if anyone wanted to get rid of you, the first place they'd think of putting a lethal dose would be in a nice bottle of beer.
What's that? A boat! A boat!
Oh, God!
Blore's got his...
How?
A booby trap all set, a wire across the door attached to something above.
Is he?
Yes, crushed. Head stove in. The great bronze bear holding a clock from the landing.
A bear? Oh, how ghastly is this awful childishness.
I know. God, what a fool Blore was.
And now there are 2.
Yes, and we'll have to be very careful of ourselves.
We shan't do it. He'll get us. We'll never get away from this island.
Yes, we will. I've never been beaten yet.
Don't you feel that there's someone now in this room watching us? Watching and waiting.
That's just nerves.
Then you do feel it.
No, I don't.
Please, Phillip, let's get out of this house, anywhere. Perhaps if this was a boat, they'll see us.
All right, we'll go to the top of the island and wait for relief to come. It's a sheer cliff off the far island, and we can see if anyone approaches from the house.
Anything's better than staying here.
Won't you be rather cold in that dress?
I'd be colder if I were dead.
Perhaps you're right. A quick reconnaissance.
Be careful, Phillip, please.
I'm not Blore. There's no window directly above.
He goes to the edge of the balcony and looks down. He is arrested by what he sees.
Hello? There's something washed up on the rocks.
Vera joins.
What? It looks like a body.
You'd better wait in there. I'm going to have a look.
He exits off the balcony. Vera comes back onto the room, her face full of conflicting emotions.
Armstrong's body?
Lombard enters from the balcony very slowly.
It's Armstrong, drowned. Wash up at high water mark.
So there's no one on the island. No one at all except us 2.
Yes, Vera. Now we know where we are.
Now we know where we are?
Very trick of yours with that wire. Quite neat. Old Wargrave always knew you were dangerous.
You...
So you did drown that kid after all.
I didn't! That's where you're wrong. Please believe me. Please listen to me.
I'm listening. You better make it a good story.
It isn't a story. It's the truth. I didn't kill that child. It was someone else.
Who?
A man. Peter's uncle. I was in love with him.
This is getting quite interesting.
Don't sneer. It was hell. Absolute hell. Peter was born after his father's death. If he'd been a girl, Hugh would have got everything.
Well-known tale of the wicked uncle.
Yes, he was wicked. And I don't know, he was He said he loved me, but that... He was too poor to marry. He was a rock far out that Peter was always wanting to swim to. Of course I wouldn't let him. It was dangerous. One day we were on the beach and I had to go back to the house for something I'd forgotten. When I got back, I saw Peter swimming out to the rock. I knew he hadn't a chance. The current had got him already. I flew towards the beach and Hugh tried to stop me. "Don't be a fool," he said. I told the little ass he couldn't do it.
Go on. This is interesting.
I pushed past him. He tried to stop me, but I got away and rushed down. I plunged into the sea and swam off to Peter. He'd gone before I could get him.
And everything went off well at the inquest. They called you a plucky girl and you kept discreetly quiet about Hugh's part in the business.
Do you think anyone would have believed me? Besides, I couldn't. I really was in love with him.
Well, it's a pretty story. And then I suppose Hugh let you down.
Do you think I ever wanted to see him again?
You certainly are an accomplished liar, Vera.
Can't you believe the truth when you hear it?
Who set the trap that killed Blore? I didn't. And Armstrong's dead. I've broken most of the commandments in my time, and I'm no saint, but there's one thing I won't stand for, and that's murder.
You won't stand for murder. What about those natives you left to die in Africa?
That's what's so damn funny. I didn't.
What do you mean?
For once. Just once, mark you, I played the hero. Risked my life to save the lives of my men, left them my rifle and ammunition and all the food there was, and took a chance through the brush. By the most incredible luck, it came off, but it wasn't in time to save them, and the rumor got around that I deliberately abandoned my men. There's life for you.
Do you expect me to believe that? Why, you actually admitted the whole thing.
I know. I got such a kick out of watching their faces.
You can't fool me with a stupid lie like that.
Blast you!
Why didn't I see it before? It's there in your face, the face of a killer.
You can't fool me any longer!
No!
Vera sways forward as if fainting. Lombard runs to catch her. She wrests the revolver from him.
No!
You cunning little devil!
If you come one step nearer, I'll shoot.
You, young, lovely, and quite mad.
Lombard makes a movement. She shoots. He falls. She rushes to him, her eyes full of horror. The revolver falls from her hand. Suddenly, a low laugh is heard coming from the study. Vera turns her head slowly. The laughter grows louder as the study door opens. Wargrave enters. He carries a rope in his hands.
It all comes true. My 10 little soldiers' plan. My rhyme. My rhyme. Silence in the court! If there is any more noise, I shall have the court cleared. It's all right, my dear. It's all right. Don't be frightened. This is a court of justice. You'll get justice here.
Wargrave locks the door of the dining room and the hall.
You thought I was a ghost. You thought I was dead. Armstrong said I was dead. That was the clever part of my plan. Said we'd trap the murderer. We'd fix up my supposed death so I should be free to spy upon the guilty one. He thought it an excellent plan. Came out that night to meet me by the cliff without any suspicion. I sent him over with a push. So easily. He swallowed my red herring all right. You know, Vera Claythorne, all my life I wanted to take life. Yes, to take life. I've had to get what enjoyment I could out of sentencing the guilty to death.
Vera slowly moves the revolver, but Wargrave intercepts her.
I always enjoyed that. But it wasn't enough. I wanted more. I wanted to do it myself with my own hands.
Vera backs away to the hall door. He suddenly curbs his excitement and speaks with severe dignity.
But I'm a judge of the High Court. I've got a sense of justice. As between our sovereign lord the king and the prisoners of the bar, will true deliverance make? Guilty, my lord. Yes, guilty. You were all guilty, you know. But the law couldn't touch you. So I had the law into my own hands. Into my own... Silence in the court!
Vera hammers on the hall door. Wargrave takes her arm and drags her back into the room.
Anthony Marston first. And Mrs. Rogers. Barberton in the brandy. Mackenzie. Stabbed. Got Rogers with an axe when he was chopping sticks. Doped Emily Brent's coffee so she couldn't feel the hypodermic. Booby trap for Blore. Blore was a fool. I always knew it'd be easy to get Blore. Returning that revolver, that was a clever touch. Made the end interesting. Oh, I knew you two would suspect each other in the end. The question was, who'd win out? I banked on you, my dear. The female of the species. Besides, it's always more exciting to have a girl at the end.
He steps onto the sofa and Vera falls to the ground.
Prisoner at the bar, have you anything to say why sentencing should not be passed on you? Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, I sentence you to death.
Stop! I'm not guilty! I'm not guilty!
Oh, they all say that. Must plead not guilty. Unless, of course, you're going all out for the verdict of insanity. But you're not mad. I'm mad. But you're not mad.
But I am innocent. I swear it. I never killed that child. I never wanted to kill him. You're a judge. You know when a person is guilty and when they're innocent. I swear I'm telling the truth.
So, you didn't drown that boy after all. Very interesting. But doesn't matter much now, does it?
What?
I can't spoil my lovely rhyme. My 10 little soldier boys. Oh, the last one. One little soldier boy left all alone. He went and hanged himself. I must have my hanging.
Lombard slowly comes around. He picks up over and shoots. Wargrave falls.
Phillip?
It's all right, darling. It's all right.
I thought you were dead. I thought I'd killed you.
Thank God. Woman can shoot straight. At least not straight enough.
I shall never forget this.
Oh, yes, you will. You know there's another ending to that 10 little soldier boys rhyme. One little soldier boy left all alone. We got married, and then there were none.
He puts his head in the noose and kisses her. The sound of a motorboat hooter is heard. The end.